original DMG and Game Boy Color are iconic Nintendo handhelds that changed the way we thought about gaming on the go. But something that gamers have always been able to do is play these games on their home TVs. This worked well for CRT monitors, but results on modern HD televisions left a lot to be desired. Enter the Gamebox Systems GBHD Retro and Color Consolizing kits. The best way to get your old Game Boy library onto the big screen. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to Macho Nacho Productions. In today's episode, I am extremely excited to share with you a sneak peek of a really awesome mod that allows you to play your Game Boy and Game Boy Color collection in lossless high definition on your modern television using original Nintendo hardware. I've waited a long time for this day. What I have to show you is something that has been in the works for some time now. These are the GBHD line of products from Gamebox Systems. The GBHD Retro will consolize your DMG, while the GBHD Color will do the same for your Game Boy Color. Much like a lot of these new kits that enable HDMI output from our retro consoles, the GBHD line of products utilizes powerful field programmable gate array chips, or FPGAs. Now, in addition to the 2 units I'll be building on this episode, Gamebox has very kindly sent me 2 extra pre-production GBHD Colors and 1 extra pre-production GBHD Retro kits for me to give away to you guys. So be sure to stay tuned all the way to the end of this video to find out how you can enter for your chance to get one of these amazing kits. Now, all these kits were kindly sent my way free of charge, but I'll be giving you my honest opinion about them. Do keep in mind that these are pre-production units, so the final version of these kits may differ from what I show you all today. One really interesting tidbit about these particular mods is that the FPGA core developed for these kits have been solely designed by Gamebox Systems. It's a proprietary core that can only be found in these kits. One of Gamebox's goal was to develop a product that has near 100% compatibility with all HD televisions. Anyway, I'm super excited to put these together and test them out. So in this video, we're going to go over a little background of the company Gamebox Systems, as well as their GBHD line of products. Then I'll go over each of the kits and show you what they come with, how to build both the GBHD Classic and Color kits, go over the features of the mods, and of course provide you all with my overall thoughts. Oh, and also if we're lucky, maybe we'll learn about other future projects that we may see coming from Gamebox Systems in the future. Alright, so let's first go over a little history about the company Gamebox Systems and its founders, as well as the inspiration behind their amazing lineup of consolized Game Boy kits. And what better way to do that than to hear it from the founders themselves. So without any further ado, I present to you Postman and Noble of Gamebox Systems.
Thanks, Tito, for having us. Hi, I'm Postman. I'm the hardware engineer as well as the project manager here at Gamebox. I'm self-taught in electronics and design. I have a degree in engineering, and you might know me from open source projects that I've worked on, such as DMTV, LidKit, and GBADVI.
Hi, I'm Noble. I'm the operations manager and mechanical designer here at Gamebox. I'm a self-taught designer with a background in art, and some things I've made include the SD to SP2 cover for GameCube and most of the cases for the products that we sell here at Gamebox. And I also make things for fun.
So a little history on Gamebox. Noble and I started modding together, just making Raspberry Pi portables and modding game consoles together. We met at the BitBuild table at Midwest Gaming Classic. BitBuild, if you don't know, is a portabilizing community, so check them out if you're interested in that. After many mods together, we decided to go and start a business together, a business venture. We began with small projects such as a voltage regulator board for trimmed Wii's called Pizza Time. And at the same time, we were starting to conceptualize the DMTV Consolizer as well as Cartboy as introductions to 3D modeling and circuit design.
Yeah, and our projects evolved over time as our skills improved. And officially, we formed Gamebox in 2019. I began with the case for Cartboy and the first revision of DMTV. And while Postman iterated continuously on both the PCB design for Cartboy and DMTV V1, We released our first products as pre-orders, Carboy first and then DMTV, and we've been working on products nonstop ever since for the gaming community.
So we started our consolization journey with UXE's Easy VGA, which is a VGA-Out mod for the original Game Boy. We worked on that code base. It was open source, and we added color palettes, scan lines, and controller support. At roughly the same time, we saw Woozle's GBA Consolizer, and we're amazed at the engineering that went into that product, and it inspired us to start working on our own HDMI kit for Game Boy. Development has lasted about a year and a half, and during the development we actually decided to add in support for the Game Boy Color. So fun fact, that was actually an afterthought for us. We were only going to do DMG at first, but we decided to do both because why not? And throughout the project we have been fortunate enough to work with modders such as Helder. He has been making our ribbon cables, which has been awesome. So thank you, Helder. We really appreciate it. And it's at this point that we finally think that we have something that we can share with the world and the retro gaming community.
Wow, that is really awesome. Thank you to Postman and Nobble for the really awesome insight into your company and products. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with next. Alright, so now let's take a look at what's included in both of these kits. Starting with the GBHD Retro, as you can see, it comes very nicely packaged in this box. Inside, you'll find that all the parts come very nicely labeled and organized, which is awesome. The first and most important item included in this kit is the Consolization PCB. This is of course where all the magic happens. This board was designed by Postman himself, and here you can see the powerful FPGA, which is the brains of the operation. Next is the ribbon cable, which connects the Consolization PCB to the DMG motherboard. Here we have the controller PCB, and as you can see, it utilizes a SNES port, which means that this is compatible with any SNES controller, even wireless ones like the lovely 8BitDo SN30. The controller board is connected to the Consolization PCB using this very small ribbon cable. The next item in the kit is this 3D printed shell designed by Nobble. It is an extremely high quality print, and I'm really liking the design aesthetic. Also included is a micro to USB Type-A cable to power the system. And lastly, the kit comes with a free gift, a Gamebox sticker, keychain, and a mint. How thoughtful. Now moving on to the GBHD Color, let's see what we get. Now this kit doesn't come as nicely packaged as the GBHD Retro, but it still comes very nicely labeled nonetheless. Seeing as how both these kits are pre-production units, I'm sure the packaging will be different when it's ready for retail. Again, starting with the most important component, this is the GBHD Color Consolization PCB. Again, this utilizes an FPGA with a core that has been totally custom designed by Postman. A nice and elegant package. And this is the custom flex ribbon cable to interface the GBHD PCB to the Game Boy Color motherboard. This was actually a collaboration between Gamebox Systems and Helder, which is pretty awesome. Here's another ribbon cable which will carry the video signal from the Game Boy Color motherboard to the Consolization PCB. This here is the controller PCB. Again, it's an SNES style port just like the GBHD Retro. However, you also have the option of getting a Wii style controller port. This is compatible with the Wii Classic controller, which is another really great option. Speaking of options, this here is the full shell kit. As you can see, Gamebox made this awesome custom Macho Nacho shell. I'm a little biased, but this thing came out awesome. Here's a multicolored full shell so you can get an idea of some of the colors they'll be offering. Now there's another version of the shell which is a bit cheaper. This is the Easy case, and it's essentially half of the full case, which means you'll be using the other half of your original Game Boy Color shell. Again, it's great to have options. And of course, this also comes with a USB cable to power the unit, as well as Haribo gummies to keep you motivated during the installation process. These will certainly come in handy. Alright, that's everything included in these kits. So without any further ado, let's put both of these GBHD consoles together, starting with the Retro for the DMG, then followed by the Color. Alright everyone, you know the drill. First thing we gotta do is to take this DMG apart by removing the 6 tri-wing or Phillips screws. Depending on your DMG, it can have either. Once removed, split open the shell and pull out the ribbon cable. Moving our attention to the rear half with the motherboard, remove all 4 Phillips screws. Now you can lift out the motherboard. Now take notice of these PCB burrs on top of the motherboard. We need to remove them. Use some flush cutters to remove the bulk, and then file it down so it's completely flat. This will help the motherboard fit properly into the new 3D printed case. Next, we need to remove these wires. My Hakko desoldering gun will make quick work of them. Great, now we need to do the same to these wires here. Fantastic. Next, we need to remove both battery contacts. Heating the contacts with your iron while gently pulling down with some needle nose pliers works perfectly for this. Now moving our attention back to this area of the board, pre-tin pin 1 and pin 4. Then solder a small wire, bridging them together. And this is what it should look like. Next, solder a wire 9.5 inches in length to pin 4 of the volume potentiometer shown here. This is for the optional stereo audio expansion feature. Now pre-tin and bridge the 3rd and 4th pin as shown. I'm using a small piece of wire for this. And this is what it should look like. Now the last thing we need to do to prep the motherboard is either trim or bend the metal tabs on the expansion connector. I unfortunately didn't capture footage of this step on camera, but this is how it should look. This again will help the motherboard fit into the new shell. Moving our attention to the Consolizer PCB, go ahead and remove resistor R3 shown here. This again is for the optional audio expansion feature. Next, solder the 9.5 inch wire we soldered to the motherboard to the pad labeled Write Audio on the back of the Consolizer PCB. Now begin prepping the case by installing the cartridge slot backplate. Then carefully install the power switch, making sure the orientation is correct. And then drop in the DMG motherboard. It's a bit finicky to get in there, but make sure the power switch is aligned correctly. Great. Once in, secure it with 2 of the medium-sized screws. Now grab the Consolizer PCB and at an angle, drop it into the bottom housing, making sure the HDMI and micro USB ports are aligned with their respective openings. Next, insert the controller ribbon cable into the connector marked SNES, making sure the blue tab is facing up. Then insert the other end into the controller PCB, again with the blue tab facing up. Then, as shown, place the SNES controller PCB into the bottom shell, and then fasten it into place. Unfortunately, one of the screw bosses didn't align with the PCB, so I only used 2 screws instead of 3. Now we need to do some ribbon cable origami. Be sure to take your time during this step. First, fold over the top part to the left so that the blue tab faces up. Then fold it down like so. And now for the tricky part. Flip the cable over and then fold this segment down so that the pins face up. And this is what it should look like. Feel free to watch this segment again if you didn't get it the first time. Now insert one end of the ribbon cable into the Consolizer PCB with the blue tab facing towards the controller port. Then insert the other end into the DMG motherboard with the blue tab facing up. Now go ahead and thread a couple long screws in through the bottom shell, but not all the way. Just enough to guide and hold the internal spacer bracket. Once the spacer bracket has been placed over the partially threaded screws, go ahead and close up the shell. And then finish fastening all the remaining screws to button up the console. And that's it. Now before we build the next console, let's take a quick snack break. Alright, onto the GBHD Color build. As usual, we need to isolate the Game Boy Color's motherboard, so start by removing the 6 tri-wing screws. Once open, remove the 3 Phillips screws securing the motherboard. Then delatch the LCD ribbon cable and remove the motherboard. Next, desolder the speaker. Now, removing the battery contacts is optional, but highly recommended. Using my PCB holder made this job a whole lot easier. And this is what it should look like with the contacts removed. Next, we need to prep these 8 vias shown here by removing some solder mask. Do this carefully by very gently filing away the solder mask as shown. We also need to do the same to these 3 vias shown here. Now add a little flux and pre-tin all the vias. If the solder is not wetting, you may need to file a bit more. Carefully position the flex ribbon cable and then make the corresponding connections to the vias with each of the pads on the ribbon cable. And this is how everything should look. And don't forget to solder this via as well. Then add some double-sided tape below the ribbon cable in this area shown here, as well as some Kapton tape on top. This will help protect the joints from any stress caused by manipulating the ribbon cable. Great, now connect the LCD ribbon cable to the motherboard. Moving our attention to the Consolization PCB, here you can see the connections for the SNES style controller port, NES, and Wii. For this build, we'll be using the SNES controller port, which is the connector here. Go ahead and insert the controller ribbon cable with the blue tab facing up, and then insert the other end into the SNES controller PCB as shown. Now attach the flex ribbon cable to the Consolization PCB. And then do the same for the LCD ribbon cable. Now go ahead and grab your shell. Carefully set the controller PCB in first. Once screwed in, go ahead and place the Consolization PCB as shown, making sure the HDMI and USB ports are aligned correctly. Then secure it with 4 short screws. Position this plate onto the shell and then secure it as well. Finally, position the Game Boy Color motherboard into the lower housing, making sure to carefully tuck away the ribbon cables. Once positioned, secure it by using 2 screws located at the top of the motherboard. Now prep the top shell by slotting in the translucent yellow cartridge backplate as shown. Then drop it onto the top shell. Flip the console over and fasten the 2 long screws. And then use the 2 remaining screws to button it all up. And finally, we're done. I have to say, I am incredibly impressed with these 2 kits. The crisp video they output over HDMI is immaculate. Also, I love the design of the enclosures, and I think they will look fantastic in anyone's retro gaming setup. However, these being pre-production units, there are a few quirks and issues that I ran across. I have relayed most of these to the Gamebox Systems team, and thankfully they are all being addressed. But before we get into that, let's dive into the features. Now, in order to get into these features though, we first need to open up the OSD, or on-screen display. To do this, simply press and hold the Start and Select button on your controller for a few seconds. Unfortunately, these kits were not compatible with any of my capture cards, so I'm recording the LCD screen with my camera. The OSD menu on both of these kits are identical, except the GBHD Retro has an extra option for different color palettes. I'll go over that though a little bit later. Otherwise, the OSD menus and features are identical. Starting with resolution, you have the option between 480p and 720p. I prefer the look of 720 as it makes the image take up the whole screen real estate. However, according to Postman, the 480p option has more compatibility with different television sets. At 480p, the image is 3 times integer scaled, while at 720p, the image is perfectly integer scaled 5 times, which is awesome. The next option in the OSD is scaling. You have Prop, which scales the image perfectly and in my opinion is the best. Next you have Stretch, which stretches the image to the whole screen. And then there's TV, which is a slightly windowed screen to alleviate overscan. Next is Overscan, which provides additional scaling options to reduce overscan. Scan lines is another awesome feature that is offered. There are 3 levels of thickness that you can toggle through. I prefer to leave them off, but it's a nice option to have since I know a lot of folks will enjoy it. You can also toggle through different colors for the borders. There are a ton of options to choose from, so I'm sure you'll find one you like. As for me, I like the classic black border. LitKit is a product that Gamebox sells on their website. It's an RGB mod that can add some real flair to your new Consolizer Game Boy. I unfortunately don't have one installed, but you're able to control it through this option. Something that is really cool is that you're able to remap the buttons on your controller. You can either have the AB buttons on the controller correlate to AB, or have the YB buttons correlate to AB, which some may find more ergonomic. I think this was a very cool addition. The last two options are power and reset. Pressing the power setting will put the system into an ultra low power state. Simply press the A button again and it will turn back on. As for reset, this option does not function and will be removed from the final production version. Now looking at the GBHD Retro Consolizer OSD, it is exactly the same as the GBHD Color we just went over, but there is an additional option for color palettes, which is great. There are 16 in total to choose from. Awesome, so now that we have a good sense of all these features, let's quickly go over the pros and cons. Starting with the pros, I have to say that I am really loving the form factor of both of these kits. I'll have to give a slight edge to the Retro kit due to its awesome lines and lovely footprint. However, I think both of these kits look great and they will fit nicely into anyone's Retro setup. Next, I have to say that the video out is immaculate. The pixels are razor sharp and there is no shimmering since everything is perfectly integer scaled. It's truly fantastic. I also really like the on-screen display. All the menu items are very nicely laid out and are extremely intuitive to navigate. I also appreciate the many customizing options that they offer. All in all, I really think that this is going to be an incredible way to play your Game Boy system on an HD television when they are finally ready for production. But before that, let's quickly go over the cons. Obviously, these being pre-production units, there are certainly some flaws. The first one is capture card support. I would have loved to have shown you the image quality through captured video, but unfortunately I was not able to capture footage on either my Elgato HD60S Plus or my Elgato Camlink 4K. While these issues aren't the end of the world, it could prove to be a problem for those who wish to stream their gameplay footage. I hope this is something that they can address in the final version. While building each console, I found it to be a bit of a finicky process. For one, there are a lot of different screws with no clear indication of which one goes where. The issue will most certainly be resolved though when the build instructions are finalized, so this really isn't that huge of an issue. There were some other minor idiosyncrasies which should be addressed in the final build as well. Another issue is that when the console is turned off, you are left with a frozen image instead of a blank screen. This is a bit strange as there is no clear indication that the console is off. I'm told that in the production version, the screen will turn off, and I think that'll resolve this issue. Also, I really like that the DMG utilizes a physical switch to turn the system on and off. I think it would have been nice if there was a physical switch for the color version as well, although the in-software on-off toggle seems to work fine. Something else to note is that I was having issues getting audio out of both kits. This is something that I relayed to the folks over at Gamebox Systems, so it's currently being looked into. Now these kits start at $120 and go as high as $150, so they're a little on the pricey side. But once all the issues have been addressed, I do think these will be an awesome addition to my Retro setup. Other than some of these issues, I am still extremely excited to see the final production version of this product. With a few of these kinks ironed out, this will certainly be a very awesome way to play your Game Boy collection on the big screen. So there you have it, the GBHD Retro and Color. Two incredible consolizing kits for the Game Boy Color and DMG. Now before we wrap things up, I want to turn it back over to Postman and Nobble to perhaps give us a sneak peek as to what else Gamebox Systems will be cooking up in the near future.
Yeah, and the consolization kits are only a small piece of the development here at Gamebox. We have many other types of kits in the works at the moment, as well as products for the GameCube, a series that we call ModCube. Some soon-to-be released secret projects that are super unique, and we are also launching an improved website and forum very soon. So make sure to follow us on Instagram and check our website closely to see what we have in store for the community.
Thanks again, Tito, for having us on. We're looking forward to hearing comments and feedback from the community. We're excited about the future of Gamebox, and we are anxious to get everybody even more retro gaming and modding products. Thanks again.
Wow, those sound like some pretty cool projects that you guys are working on. I can't wait to try them out. Alright, I want to thank those of you who made it this far into the video. I'm sure you're all wondering how you can enter for your chance to win one of these pre-production kits that I'll be giving away. All you need to do is like this video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and last and most importantly, leave a comment in the video telling me and Gamebox Systems what type of mods or products you'd like to see them create. It can be anything for any console. I will pick 3 winners at random who meet the entry criteria. The deadline for the giveaway is August 1st, so there is plenty of time to enter. I'll announce the winners on all of my social media accounts, so that means YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Anyway, I want to thank Postman and Nobble for coming onto the show to share their really amazing GBHD mod kits with us, and I truly wish them all the best. As always, I'm curious about your thoughts on these really cool Game Boy consolizing kits. Leave a comment and let me know. In the meantime, I'll be enjoying a cup of coffee and catching up on some Pokemon Crystal. Oh yeah, Gamebox System makes their own coffee, along with other merch, so be sure to check out their website. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Macho Nacho Productions. I release content every Thursday, so be sure to turn on notifications. And as always, see you next time.